our host.
We stayed with Tessa.
She is this incredible artist.
We told Takashi that we wanted to go to a nice sushi restaurant. He was like, I can teach you.
When Airbnb landed in Australia a decade ago, it promised a cheap accommodation revolution.
Maybe you need more than a hotel room.
But with more than 200,000 Aussie homes now in the short stay market, renters are left scrambling for fewer and fewer properties.
Airbnb is an issue because you have problems of accessing rentals for people because of a lack of accessibility. So I'm very conscious of the pressure that is placed on communities.
Now, Victoria is widely tipped to introduce a 7.5% levy on short stay accommodation like Airbnb and stays.
That is something that has been considered by anyone who actually looks at the housing issue with regard to housing supply.
Targeting one sector, which is part of the broader accommodation and tourism sector, is not the right way to go.
The move would see the price of an average short stay rental go up by $17 a night in Melbourne and even more in regional areas. Industry groups say the proposed hike is too high.
I would argue that anything that's sort of starting to get towards the higher single digits is probably way too high. Well, anything below 5% is probably what would be the norm.
Local councils in Hobart and Brisbane have already increased rates on short-term rental properties.
You need something that's actually going to recognise the impact of all the people who are involved in accommodation or tourism.
It comes as the battle to fix the nation's housing supply shortage ramps up. Today, the first project funded by the government's $2 billion Social Housing Accelerator program was unveiled. It's a knockdown rebuild of 2 empty public housing towers in inner-city Melbourne.
The 2 red brick towers you see behind you will be demolished and will be replaced with something so much better. They are old, they are out of date, they are no longer fit for purpose. They are derelict.
And the centrepiece of today's New South Wales budget is a $2.2 billion housing and infrastructure plan.
Demand for social housing is increasing, homelessness is worsening, and the next generation fears permanent eviction from safe and secure housing.
So can we build and tax our way out of the housing crisis?
Taxing short-term letting is not going to be the solution. Even if every one of the properties in Australia were turned over to long-term letting now, it would represent such a tiny fraction of what we know that the housing need is that it simply wouldn't work.
I don't know, 200,000 homes currently on the short stay market. That sort of seems like it would be a pretty good help. I wonder if a tax is the right way to go about it, though, and whether what we need is a cap on the number of these short stay rentals. Sometimes you go to places in Sydney, near the beach, for example, and there are apartment blocks that are mostly all Airbnb and stay. So essentially you've got these residential areas being rezoned into holiday accommodation. Yeah. And if you live next door to that as well, you've got transit people coming in and out, week to week, day to day even.
Parties or something.
That's it. And then instead you've got these families living in their cars in tents because they just can't get into the rental market. And what is on the rental market is so expensive.
Why do you think a cap, I assume you mean on the number of days?
On the number of homes in particular areas that are allowed to be rented out.
So for instance, like an apartment block, you could have like 80% of those will not be able to be rented out.
So there'll just be people who are just banned from being able to do it.
I don't know how you get around it, Waleed, but...
Sorry, Waleed with his rules.
But I don't think, $17 on top of a $232 a night rental is going to break the bank for people and let them, and basically force them to go back onto the market.
It could be more of a I was going to say dissuasion, that's not a word, but something that would dissuade people, disincentive. Yeah. Because I already find that with short stays, they're already starting to outprice hotels for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, I think that we're flipping it again and going to look at hotels and how much they are costing, because to try and get a short stay in somewhere that you want in that area at that particular time is so expensive.
No chocolates on your pillow.
No chocolates on your pillow.
Well, sometimes. I mean,